It makes it easy to get a replacement copy of your Arizona driver's license.
But ID thieves have figured out a glaring security glitch in the state's driver's license website.
They had your driver's
My
license.
driver's license, right.
And the damage a crook can do with someone else's real ID is practically unlimited.
Once they have that, they can go open up credit. They can potentially get access to your bank accounts. They can do all kinds of things. So it's a pretty big deal.
See if I can get her.
We first heard about this identity theft problem this past summer,
Yeah, I was pissed off.
when Bob and Cindy McPeters contacted 3 on Your Side to complain about an ID thief who assumed Cindy's identity.
$160,000 was transferred into another account in my name with all of my information.
$160,000 nearly wiped from the couple's home equity loan before the fraudulent transaction was discovered and stopped at the last minute.
She's still getting away with it.
I couldn't believe the places, the lending agencies they went to.
Meantime, this woman reached out to CBS 5 Investigates with an oddly similar story.
Did you wonder how these people were assuming your identity?
Oh, absolutely, but nobody could tell me. And,
What these two victims had in common was that the ID thieves were somehow getting real copies of their driver's licenses.
At the same time, investigators at the Arizona Department of Transportation and at police agencies across the state began noticing a pattern.
Apparently, crooks were leasing houses, and still are for that matter, in order to establish a temporary residency. Those crooks would then have other people's duplicate driver's licenses mailed to that temporary rental. In fact, according to police records, this very house behind me was used just for that.
But we had a big question. How are they doing it?
This is ServiceArizona.com.
Now, this is the state's website where you can do a lot of different things, including renewing your driver's license.
So take a look at this. To get a replacement driver's license, all I need is a full name, date of birth, and last 4 digits of a social security number. You don't even need your old driver's license number.
That is all you need to do, and that makes it way too easy for the scammers and crooks. This email from the director of ADOT to an ID theft victim acknowledges the agency knew scammers were breaching their system. Criminals, quote, harvest stolen information from the dark web and exploit customer support systems like ServiceArizona.com.
The dark web is stuff that lives on the internet, but in places that you're not going to see through a regular browser.
Brandon Disney with Data Doctors says all of those data breaches that we hear about on the news,
One of the largest data breaches in the U.S. history was entirely preventable.
all of that personal information ends up on the dark web.
So this is like a marketplace behind
Absolutely.
the scenes,
Yep.
and people buy and sell personal information?
Yeah, there's trading, there's buying and selling, there's all kinds of things that happen. There's a marketplace for it, similar to an Amazon or an eBay.
These are surveillance pictures of the woman who impersonated Cindy McPeters at a bank in Kingman.
The detective called us and let us know that they had picked her up.
The suspect, Lana Monst. She's now charged with fraud and ID theft. Now remember, this is one of those temporary rental houses where driver's licenses were being mailed. According to this search warrant, law enforcement officials found all kinds of evidence inside the house. We're talking credit documents, driver's licenses, and get this, wigs.
You have ID?
And it gets worse. This is the second time Lana Monst has been arrested for doing something like this. Scottsdale police body cam video show Monst wearing a wig getting arrested in Scottsdale back in February.
Put your hands behind your back.
She was at a post office reportedly trying to steal someone else's mail.
I'm looking at her and I'd like to rip this up.
How the hell can she get a driver's license? We figured she had a fake ID.
Yeah.
She didn't. She had a real ID, Cindy's real driver's license. And I said, how do you do that? And he goes, oh, easy, you call Service Arizona.
And according to that email from the ADOT director, what had been occasional attempts by individuals has recently attracted large criminal enterprises.
Has this been going on for 6 months, a year, 2 years?
You know, I'm just not comfortable, nor am I in a position to really discuss the types and methods.
Tim Lane is the Director of Enforcement and Compliance for ADOT. He's their top cop.
And what we don't want to do as a community is let this information out. We want to keep that very close to our chest as we investigate these types of crimes.
But I'm just asking how long you've been aware that they've been using this method.
I don't know that I can really answer that.
Can you tell me how many victims you've identified that have had their driver's license taken as a result of this method?
Not at this time, no.
Can you tell me how many suspects your office is investigating?
No.
But 2 days later, ADOT sent us this email, which states they've charged 9 people so far and have identified 164 victims, although we have counted more. We've also learned that ADOT and MVD have known about this problem for years. All of the victims we spoke to are angry.
Think of how many people are exposed. All of Arizona.
This woman says she can't believe the state has known about this for all this time, and yet today you can still get someone else's driver's license with very little information.
This is something that should have been acted on immediately. I mean, if you were not working for the government, working for a regular corporation, you'd be fired for something like this.
So we have shut down specific services that we found were vulnerable. So those are no longer up and running.
Eric Jorgensen is the director of the MVD. He's the boss.
We have identified a couple hundred victims and about a half a dozen suspects just through police records at this point. That sounds like a pretty bad problem. So I guess the big question is, why is Service Arizona still online?
Well, I think that goes back to that idea that we have over 6 million, almost 7 million people who use Service Arizona every day or every year. We have to be very careful as we approach any of these problems. One, to make sure that we continue to be able to offer the service that our customers expect.
MVD is rolling out an improved system which should be up and running by the end of the year. But until then, Service Arizona continues to be vulnerable to ID thieves. And for victims like Bob and Cindy McPeters, the MVD plan is not enough.
It's almost like they're partners with the thief.